Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Welcome, Christophe. It's such a joy to have you here with us for our audience. And for the benefit of our audience, before we talk about you, I just want to share with everybody that we've been working over the last 18 months or so on an incredible book that we will be publishing in the very near future. And I wanted everybody to get to know you as my co-author for this phenomenal book, and for everyone to discover the beautiful journey that you have been on and the incredible things that you have done so far.
Yeah.
So maybe let's begin there. I'll let you share your story, your journey with the audience.
Okay.
And we'll dive after into the topics of joy more deeply.
Okay, so my journey of joy has been one of ups and downs, meaning always ups with a joy and downs with a joy. You don't have to just be up to feel joyful. I grew up in South Africa and now living in France. I have a beautiful family of three. Sandrine, my wife, Esteban, Maël, and Naomi. My journey when I was young is one of not having the most stable family context. Mother died when I was young with cancer. Lived in very beautiful homes and families that took me up, but then having to learn to adapt to new systems. Then leaving South Africa when I was about 19 because had a bit of a challenge with the apartheid system. It made me want to go and study the human being, understanding why human beings who are such beautiful creatures can sometimes apply such bad systems. Since then, after my studies in psychology, I would say my journey has been one of humanizing business, creating ventures. We can do things with joy, with other people, and always being not just on adventure, but on ventures.
Share more about the specifics of your life in South Africa and some of the challenges that led you actually to leave
the country. Well, I was fortunate in the sense that because I was a stranger in homes, very welcoming homes, I landed up befriending people you're unlikely to befriend, like Ziggy, for example, who's black. And in South Africa, as a white person, having black friends is not so evident. And Alex, also a best friend of mine, was in the same state. I lived with him and his sister and his parents, but it allowed me to meet and see people that I would normally not see as peers, to be honest, and become friends, and it opened my mind and built an empathy, human to human. So when I got to university, I tried to, with others, do something about it and create a multiracial student association, which is about blacks and whites and Indians coming together, learning to understand each other more, because I felt that was very absent. It wasn't welcomed, especially in the university where I was, which is the Potchefstroom. I remember doing this and coming sometimes out of these meetings and people treating us as traitors. Anyhow, eventually this led to me leaving the country, coming to Europe, and still being fascinated with South Africa, very happy with the transformation that's taken place. Going back now, still being disappointed that things haven't changed quite the way it could have, but baffled by that. But every time I get there, it's just joy.
This view that you've had about seeing the power of we and rather looking at the differences that often separate individuals or cultures, has that view amplified or grown as a result of experiences that you have lived since those early days for you?
Yeah, and I would say it's not necessarily the power of we. It's about the power of diverse me's in a collective we. So it's not the sacrifice of the me. If I think back at Ziggy, for example, it's putting him into this picture and not just another tribe or another group. So I always say we become a better me through a stronger we. but we also become a better we with stronger me's. So I would definitely say it's a healthy realizations that every we needs a lot of me, but a lot of me needs a lot of we. So maybe that's more play of words.
Yes.
But I just want to say it didn't become an apartheid was an abstracting of the humanity. We needed to put humanity back. And when I build businesses and guide business and steward businesses, it's that challenge always, because business can become abstract and extracted from joy, extracted from human emotion. So a distance, unvulnerable, detached, and let's say everything that's human is extracted from it.
Talking about humanizing business, as you mentioned earlier, you've built an incredible company over 17 years ago. Let's dive deeper into what humanizing business means for you and some of the transformations you have facilitated during that journey.
So humanizing business, and obviously that's the mission of Innate Motion, company we co-founded about 17 years ago, and with the sole mission of putting back that human meaning and human emotion back into business. It's a little bit the same thing, is that when I worked at Unilever or I worked in companies, corporations, I saw a lot of beautiful people applying a system that doesn't always serve humans. For me, a company performs well when it helps human growth, and therefore you have to humanize it. And that means you have to put vulnerability into the place. It means that you have to learn to empathize and label for love, as we would say. Look at your customers not in a narrow scope of just being a user, but in a full scope of seeing their full potential. And you must also look at the different stakeholders through that lens. You know, the people who work with you, your suppliers, your partners. When you humanize them, you can be more ethical, you can build deeper relationship, you can be more relevant to one another, you care more for one another, but you can also be more creative because you can see a bigger picture of where you can be relevant. You can see more resourcefulness in each one of us. Relationships are deeper, but fundamentally it builds a strong, resilient foundation upon which to build. So if I look at anything that's like a collective narrative, like a brand can build, it's a leadership tool for collective narrative, or a culture, just like leadership. It's a scalable tool for a company to grow with not just business sense, but human sense.
And you spoke about empathy, and often in our dialogues, and you even have a book on fierce empathy. Can you share some specifics on how we can actually put empathy into practice for some of the leaders that could be listening to us today?
Well, actually, when people talk about customer intimacy, which is the more normal language in business, it's impossible without empathy. I know some companies like Amazon, for example, they put an extra chair in the boardroom which represents a customer, which is a simple trick of stepping into the shoes of other people so you can look at your great work through their eyes and expand your relevance in that way. I think today just doing that through the customer lens and the people you serve lens is not enough. You also have to do that with the people who are part of your business ecosystem, suppliers, even the shareholders, or the people who are building the community. So I have, for example, also a sports club where we do 3 racket sports, so tennis, paddle, and pickleball. And when I look at that community that they're building around this platform and the friendships that are built, the potential of being relevant as a business just grows, because you all of a sudden say, it's not just about hitting a ball around the court, it's about building friendships and giving people a new social context when they are in retirement because they have time, they've lost their traditional patterns. People look for that sense of belonging, sense of participation. So all of a sudden the club became much more than just a racket. It became a place where people build friends, enjoy company, and social leaders became important, more so than coaches. That's a form of humanizing. And you put people, you extend the leadership because there's a lot of people who are social leaders. So it's not anymore the leadership of the club, it is, or the leaders, but the leadership, because it becomes a process. People can step in, take a role, and it unlocks such a lot of joy. Yeah.
So let's talk about joy, actually. What brings you joy? You've written several books, you've built Innate Motion with your co-founders, you have also opened this tennis club, as you've mentioned. You've also invested in other business ventures, startups.
Yeah.
and you have a beautiful family, traveling the world, enjoying life. What is the biggest source of joy for you?
I think it's two. One is other people, doing things with other people, setting up a bus company in Africa and succeeding in doing that, but also failing together in doing that. Or even this tennis club, it's with ups and downs, but you stick together, and the trust and the generosity. So joy is very much gratefulness to other people. And I think if I look back to my younger life, I had to put my hands in other people. I had to count on a lot of gratitude or generosity from other people. So I've learned to get a lot of joy on that gracious but also generosity of other people and unlocking that through ventures. And I realized that's for me something I'm grateful for, but therefore it gives me a lot of joy. So that's one. And I look at now my family. I mean, if I look at Sandrine and her family, that's the family I never had. And I can see the warmth. It's something I had to learn to fully value. So I'm very grateful on that. So that's one source of joy. So be it in the family, be it in a tennis club, which you build a venture, be it in a bus company, be it Innate Motion. And at Innate Motion, we say we fellow travelers. We go on journeys together and we try and make these journeys of joy and growth. Another one is, I must say, reading. I'm a very curious person. Sometimes to the frustration of many people that love me, I can just go off and read, and I need to read at least an hour or two a day. But it gives me joy. Learning to grow, but I can take nearly any book and get lost in it. That gives me joy.
So now that we know about your sources of joy, how do you bring joy to others in your life?
I think, and I hope, but I create spaces for people to shine or to be themselves. Enough space for people to be the best of themselves, believing in them, rather focusing on possibility and abundance than fear and scarcity. Trusting each other is the joy, but also every venture we create, it is an opportunity for people to go on a journey together, inviting people to do so. We just come back from a beautiful retreat, and the joy I get is seeing the willingness of people to give so much of themselves. Yes, the context was created, but it's such a joy to see that we are ready to do something together, even if we don't necessarily know what the end goal will be. So really to let something emerge. And yes, we have a sense of what we want to do, but it's still a discovery journey.
And that's the excitement, actually.
That's the excitement, that's the joy. The fact that we can create something, so that's also a sense of agency. We can, if we choose, to trust each other and use each other's strength and be grateful for each other's, tolerant for each other's weaknesses or shortcomings, then we can dance our way forward and create something together. Sometimes I do that with too many things, so I have to sometimes say it's time to let it go. And learning, you use the word surrender, but to say now it's time to hand it over and let it be carried forward by other people, that's also become a joy. Quite new to me. We decided to stop Africa Drive so that the local Beninese company can continue. But letting it go, first you can feel, oh, we failed. But I realized letting it go is making sure that it can be taken forward without you. And you have given what you can, and now it's time to let go, as an example. But there's so many examples that I can look back. Letting go can also be a wonderful source of joy.
You studied psychology, so you're a psychologist, and now you're focused on business. So everything that you have shared, how has psychology and some key principles and all the reading and curiosity that you have helped you potentially shift or maybe help evolve some perspectives that you maybe had in your earlier days? Can you share maybe an evolution that has created a shift for you?
Yeah.
That ties with a lot of the concepts that are connected to humanizing business, empathy, going on beautiful journeys together, the importance of family, and so on. Has your studies impacted that in any way?
I think so, because when I look back, that unlocking meaningful growth has definitely got to do with a human dimension. I don't believe you can create meaningful business without unlocking human growth. So that lens of it's human beings that have to grow, and meaningful business can be an enabler of that. I actually believe there is a business to be built, but it has to unlock that human potential. It has to grow that human relevance or human resourcefulness or human resilience and relationships. If it doesn't do that, you cannot build a meaningful business. You cannot unlock meaningful business growth. I think because my angle has always been that human understanding, it was easy to see business that way. And I remember being in America with Ben and Jerry's, and we looked at the brand and they said, look, we're a social justice brand. We are in business to allow for more social justice. Such a human, I think, but business can be meaningful and successful while doing that. If I think of the Baobab Express, our goal was to put reliable ecosystems of mobility in Benin while still running a business. We succeeded for 10 years and then realized we needed some other way to move forward. If I look at even the tennis club, if I look at it today, it's fun sports where we can build friendships, but we do it through racket sports. So it's always taking that human dimension. If I look even another startup that I'm very busy with, it's Grand Coeur, which is monitoring healthcare, monitoring from a distance. It's to grow the circle of healthcare around every doctor and every patient. By just taking that perception, the type of solutions you come in, the type of resources you can tap in, bring in the families into that circle of care. Don't make it just transactional between the doctor and the patient. So I think psychology has given me a great ability to see the human being in its full, to then see the mechanics of business, how they can become meaningful.
You spoke about your curiosity and unlocking human potential. In conversations I've had with certain executives in the past, some share how some of their employees actually have no ambition, no aspiration, and that they're simply happy with the status quo. What advice would you give to those individuals that say, I'm just happy where I am right now? And how can we help them unlock their true potential and give them the curiosity and create that catalyst for them to actually evolve to a better version of themselves?
I have in innate some of the most wonderful people who are very happy where they are and they want to keep things as they are, but it doesn't mean they have no ambition. They are full of ambition, and they might not have a career ambition and want stability in that work context, but they want to do so much to keep that ecosystem they're in vibrant, healthy, responsible. They tend to be more on the conserving and preserving of what is beautiful. So you need people like that, and that's ambition for me. They put resilience in the system. If I look at my own adventurous nature, sometimes I'm too optimistic. I'm ready to gamble with everything that's beautiful and unbeautiful. So those who treasure what is the most precious about your company, you must recognize that. And they have great ambition if you give them the tools and the room to serve like that. So I think the short answer is maybe there's too little diversity in how people can grow in your organization, or you define ambition too narrowly. But if you start seeing all the sides of humanity, I don't think there's anyone in an organization who has no ambition.
So let's talk about your future ambitions and aspirations that will allow you to live with no regrets when you're going to be in your 90s or 100 years old.
I was asked this question by a great colleague of mine, Megan, in the US, and she asked me, what will you be doing for the next 5 years? And I said, I'll be doing what I'm doing now. So I think I will have regret when I stop being curious, when I stop believing in the ability to grow and stop believing that others can do so with me. So that would be my biggest regret. So stopping, and I have in the past sometimes doubted that, and that's been the moments of regret. And so that's what I'm fighting, that we keep welcoming change, keep growing, and growing when I'm 90, that I still feel I can grow like I was 4.
Tell us about your kids. You have 3 beautiful kids, and your view on life and everything you have shared evidently has had a very positive impact on them. Of course, with Sandrine, your wife. What have been some of the core values or principles that you have instilled in them so they can live with more joy?
So I think the most important value is to always see other people as people, not just see labels, but see human beings. Two mature boys, a wonderful girl, but they all are kind, which is not weakness, it's strength. I think most important value is probably based on my own youth. It's always respect for another people, ability to get into their shoes, being kind, but kind not as a form of weakness, but kind as a form of always seeing the other person in their fullness and trying to find the qualities in them that could be beautiful. And I think my sons can see that easily in others, not always in each other. They fight all the time. But they show respect, and Sandrine has also instilled that. And if I look at Naomi, she's extremely inviting to people all over the world. So that ability and wanting to know the other and not get caught up in one dogma or a narrow scope of what we should be. I think that's the values that we've pushed, and at least up to today I feel it's what they live by.
What advice would you have for humanity or other individuals listening to the show so we can collectively bring more joy to this world?
I would always say be careful of our survival brain, which is driven by fear. If I look back at South Africa, a lot of the inhuman behavior is driven by that survival scarcity mindset. That's one. Be aware that abundance is a choice. You can cultivate it. Kindness is not weakness. And vulnerability and interdependence is something that's needed to build anything beautiful.
Do you see a difference between joy and happiness?
Absolutely. I worked a lot on happiness because I worked with the Bright Coke on opening happiness. So the difference between happiness and joy for me, I love happiness. I love fun. I'm a person who loves to play. I love sport. I love the statement of Ben and Jerry, if it's not fun, why do it? But joy is much more grateful. Joy is more generous. So joy for me is deeper. It is a type of satisfaction, generosity and gratefulness that happiness doesn't require. So for me, joy is more meaningful. It's more social. It's more humble. So that would be the way I look at happiness. So I'm pro-happiness too, but it's just not as deep as joy.
And would you say that happiness is something we seek, while joy is something we can cultivate internally, irrespective of life realities or circumstances?
I think happiness and joy becomes more beautiful when we don't pursue it, but then it's an end state of growth. If we pursue it, it becomes like an American dream, and it feels like it's not already there. The joy, just like happiness, is there. You must just unlock it. You must just embrace it, but it's not something you have to first achieve. So yes, I would say happiness is more spontaneous. Joy is something that you must cultivate probably more intensely. But it's an end state, in my view.
Christophe, it's been such a pleasure. I really look forward for us to share the Welcome Change book with the world and continuing the beautiful journeys that we have started given the recent collaboration we've been talking about. So really excited to share all these details very soon with everyone.
Well, I thank you for this honor to be able to speak on this show of yours. I think it's just such a beautiful idea of unlocking 1 million years of joy. Make it 20, because I think 1 million is not enough.
Very good. Thank you.